Greetings, Terrarians, Chaos here. Welcome to another Commenter Day. This is a series where once a month I take the top comment from the previous Commenter Day video and I attempt to build what was requested. So if you enjoy this series, let me know by subscribing to the channel and ringing that notification bell. And if you would like to help me decide what I should build next month, leave a comment with the build request. This month's top comment comes from Tizona Productions, who requests a destroyed village that has been taken over by the corruption. This is a really interesting idea. Since town NPCs can't live in the corruption biome, it makes sense that the village built there would be completely abandoned. So what I'm going to try and do today is to make a ghost town where one side of the village is very much overrun with the corruption, while the other side is less so, as if the corruption is slowly creeping through the land and the town, but the village itself has been long abandoned. Okay, so the landscaping is complete, and as you can see here, I have some false foundations for houses, and I even made a scaffolding for a rope bridge leading up this cliffside, and the reason why that's already complete is I forgot to press record. Yeah. So this wooden scaffolding doesn't look entirely too ruined. It looks pretty new, and that's because of how rich the wood looks. Other than these little bits of ebonstone fence at the very top of these rich mahogany fences, everything looks, fairly fresh. So I want to make this look really faded and ruined, and the best way to do that with wood is if you grab orange paint and you start painting any of the woods with orange. As you can see right here, all of these bone platforms and living wood start to take on a much more faded appearance, and you'll see it even more when I start to do the background walls. Now the rich mahogany walls don't take the effect as much as, say, shade wood does, but it still looks pretty good. And I, in fact, for a ruined build, think that the very differences in shaded texture actually adds to the feeling of a build being more ruined and abandoned. It's not being maintained. So it's up to you whether or not you'd want to paint something with orange or brown in this case. So up next, what I'm going to be doing is creating a little rope bridge to this cliff. I might actually just reduce the size of this cliff a little bit so that the bridge can be a little larger. And then additionally, over here to the side, I have a larger house area right here that I want to make a corruption chasm out of, as if this is like the epicenter of the corruption in this abandoned village. So I'm going to make a ruined house here with a big chasm coming out of the bottom of it. Then maybe a small storage shed here, a small house here. I want to do a blacksmith house here, which is why this area is a little bit wider. And I might extend this out and do a tavern. I can't go too far to the right because the snow biome's over here, and I really don't want to trigger that biome change. But we'll see what I end up doing for the tavern. So let's go ahead and get started on this chasm. The idea behind this corruption chasm is to have something similar to the ones that WorldGen would create, but with a twist. In the past, before I ever even started making YouTube videos, I had done several different builds with corruption, including this Yin Yang biosphere from roughly 5 or 6 years ago, I think. In these corruption builds, I always created spiky tendrils coming out of the ebonstone. I will be lining this chasm, which is going to be underneath the ruined house, with these tendrils. I feel it adds a bit of a jagged, more harsh feel to the corruption biome to make it feel even more evil than it usually does. Next, I move on to the house. The key to building this directly over the chasm is to make it so it looks completely devastated from the corruption while also still making it look relatively structurally sound and not as if it should be falling into the abyss. I think of these chasms as created by the Eater of Worlds when it devours its way through the world. Much like my boss theme house, I want to make it look like the worm ate its way through this house as well. So here we have the chasm complete and the ruined house on top as well. I do want to throw some generic decorations around, so I'm probably going to grab like maybe some tables and some... well, I do have this chimney here and I want to make a fireplace there, so I'm actually going to get rid of that door. We don't need to have doors on both sides as this isn't going to be valid NPC housing no matter what we do. So let me just throw a fireplace in here. And since I custom made a chimney and I don't use the actual chimney sprite and there's not going to be any smoke coming out of this because I want it to look like it's ruined, obviously, I'm going to also turn this chimney or this fireplace off. So let me just grab some wire, turn that off, and it does look pretty good when it's off as well. It's got a nice texture in the background there. So a couple of other things that I might throw around, maybe a cobweb covered chest. I'm probably going to throw some cobwebs around in here as well, though knowing me, I'm going to end up breaking these at some point or another, so I'll probably have to redo them multiple times throughout the build. I'll even throw a couple in the false foundation as well. As for the walls for the chasm itself, I want to use unobtainable walls. I thought about using something like purple painted stone wall, but it's just not going to look as good. Flesh wall's not going to look as good either. I mean, they'll look decent, but I do think that the unobtainable corruption walls will look the best. So I'm going to be going into Tieta towards the end of this build, and I'll add the walls to the chasm there as well. Gonna do some more decorations in here in a little bit, but other than that, I'm going to move on to the storage house, and I'm probably going to finish up the small house off camera as well. So here we have the small storage area, and if you're curious how we can do any of these building techniques that I use within my medieval builds, I will leave a link to those tutorials in the description below, so be sure to check them out. The only difference is I'm swapping in some stone in place of ebon stone in some places to give it a crumbling texture, and I also got rid of the corner up here and hit some hellstone brick with some gray paint over here, and then using some brown paint I painted the lead bars to make them look a little bit rusty. And over here we have a small house with the thatched roof style that's crumbling as well. Now this isn't a valid NPC house, but if you wanted to build something like this and have it look exactly like this and still have it be a valid NPC house, it's pretty easy to do. I would just recommend grabbing some really small platforms. I'm going to recommend a brass shelf in this case, and then we're going to just paint them gray, and we're going to throw a few of them right over here, and that's going to act as a doorway right here, and it looks similar to what the shade would look like to begin with. And then switch to some brown paint and just place a couple over here, and you could probably just leave those gray as well if you wanted to, and either would look fine. We've got this little rounded bit right here, and if we just hammer that 3 times, then it's no longer rounded. It's easier to blend in. As you can see, the guide has already moved into this house, and it's a valid NPC house. Now, of course, this won't be valid in the corruption, but regardless, I just wanted to show you, if you wanted a ruined style house, all you have to do is basically hide a wall using some platforms. You can keep some holes in the walls in certain places, like I could even punch a few more in here, and there would be no issue with this being a valid NPC house. So go ahead and make ruined houses if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So across the bridge here and down the scaffolding, I'm going to be working on the blacksmith area next. And if you get in my way, I'm just warning you. Aw, look, the grass loves us. I just wanted to quickly apologize for not getting many videos out last week. I had a relatively rough week and I wasn't feeling all too great, and I had to take a few days off because of that. I hope you all understand. But I wanted to give a massive thank you to all of you for sticking around and watching my videos during my short break. Just knowing that if I get ill or if something happens, seeing you all keep the channel afloat by watching older videos just makes me feel so much more at ease. Thank you very much. This week, I'm going to attempt to get caught up by releasing another video tomorrow and possibly one the next day and the day after, if possible. If not, I'm just going to do my best. So keep an eye on the channel for more videos this week. At this point, the only thing left to do, now that we have the tavern over here, which has a collapsed roof, some background stairs, I thought about making it larger, but as I said, I don't want to change the biome. And we've got the blacksmith and all of the other ruins. What I'm going to be doing is adding some plants, so some trees, some bushes. I have several different kinds of dye plants here, which I'll be painting purple to match the environment. And I want to create little stone, I guess, spikes poking out here and there. So if you look in the chasm here, how I have these stone spikes coming out of the walls, I kind of want to do the same thing just around the area, just coming out in different places. So I might take some stone here and just bring them up out of the ground. Yeah, it's going to make it a little bit more of a pain to traverse, but I think that's kind of suiting for the corruption. So I'm going to finish all of that up and then go into T-Edit and add the unobtainable background walls over here, and then we'll take a final look at the entire build. And here we are. We've got all of the decorations in place. We've got all of the corrupt spires. We've got all of the corrupt plants, and I can hear all of you screaming at me from here. You didn't really think that I'd forget to actually corrupt the area, did you? I just like saving this for last because I love the Contaminator. So let's go ahead and spread this corruption. It looks fantastic. So I'm going to be careful towards the right hand side of the build because I don't want all of it to be corrupt. Over here, it's totally fine. But once we start getting to this brown painted clay that I've placed, I'm going to be a little bit more careful. So I'm going to spread some corruption right here and then stop it there. And then spread a little bit of corruption in this spot right here. And no more, I think. Maybe just a splash right there. Yeah, okay, that looks pretty good. So this way we have corruption creeping over towards the pure areas over here, but it hasn't fully taken everything yet. And with these stone areas here, they're now ebon stone, which looks pretty interesting in my opinion. It's mimicking something that I would like to do, and something that I've done in the trailer for 1.4, and that's to have the build oozing with corruption, kind of like lesions or tumors growing out of it. And while that's not currently possible because we don't have those blocks until 1.4, it's somewhat doable right here with these stone additions. Now, if you don't like those, feel free to switch them back to stone. I just thought it would be an interesting take to have the corruption kind of taking over the stonework itself. So the only thing that I'm going to do now is hop into here, place the background walls, and then paint some of these plants to match the new corrupt biome, and then we'll be done. So that's going to do it for this month's Commenter Day build. I hope you all enjoyed this take on a ruined corruption village. Remember to leave a comment with what you would like to see me build next month. For those of you who have made it this far into the video, let me know what you most look forward to in 1.4. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll catch you all later. Happy building.